I do want to respectfully acknowledge the stolen unceded land our conversation's taking place on today, which belongs to the Bunurong and Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nations. And I pay my respects to their ancestors and elders who are part of the longest continuing culture in the world, and respectfully acknowledge we're going to be talking music and artistry on what always was and always will be Aboriginal land. Extremely thrilled to be hosting today's conversation as part of the Australian Music Vault here at the Arts Centre, where we're going to be exploring the creative theme of agents of change. And as we talk agents of change, we'll specifically be focusing on an incredible song, a very iconic song and artist that forms a really poignant and profound part of Australia's social, political and historical narrative. So that song is Took the Children Away. But first up, let's welcome and meet the incredible artist behind the song, Uncle Archie Roach. Hello there.
Namilla.
Wonderful to be with you, Uncle. I think, not that you need an introduction, but I'm just going to give a small snapshot that back in 2015, you were awarded a member of the Order of Australia for your ongoing and incredible service to the arts as a singer, a songwriter, activist and advocate on issues around community justice. A lot of people who love your music know that you are part of the Stolen Generation as well, and that's some of your story that you've brought into your music. But in light of talking agents of change, Uncle, and your incredible song Took the Children Away, it conveys so much about the legalised, enforced separation of Aboriginal children from their families, which we refer to as the stolen generations.
Yeah.
You released the song Uncle back in 1990, and it continues to influence so many music lovers. So I guess what I wanted to ask you, Uncle, is who or what led you to write about your experience of being forcibly removed?
Well, first of all, I think I've got to talk about my songwriting. I suppose when I first started to write songs, they were just songs about more country type songs like falling in love and getting drunk, and falling out of love and getting drunk again. Those sort of songs, and that was my first, I suppose, efforts in songwriting. And then I was back on Framlingham, where my mother comes from, Framlingham Aboriginal Mission. It was a mission back in the day, run by the Church of England. We still call it the Mish, or the Mission. And I was out there visiting for a little while. And my uncle, Banjo Clark, heard I was writing songs. And he came up to me one day and he said, "Hey, you've been writing songs, haven't you, boy?" I said, "Yeah, Unc, yeah." He said, "Why did you write a song about when you was taken away, mate?" And I thought, I know, Unc, I don't remember much about it. I was only 3. And he looked at me with his wise old eyes and he said, "Yeah, but I do." And I think that's the reason I wrote it. Because it's not just about the kids being taken away, it's about who they were taken from as well. And so I sat down with him one day over a couple of cups of tea, and he told me the story of the day that I was taken. And it took me about, I don't know, a day and a night to write that song, yeah.
When you're writing about something so deeply personal as well as painful, I just want to get a picture of the physical space where you were when you wrote it. Where did you go to write Took the Children Away?
I went, I think, I went to those places that I remember when I was taken away to the to the institution that we were sent to, a place in Camberwell. It was run by the Salvation Army, the William Booth orphanage for girls. But because I was a toddler, some of the girls used to look after the toddlers as well as part of their, I don't know, training or whatever. But I have a lot of memories of that place, and so I went there as well as, the foster homes they ended up in, one not particularly so good that I don't really talk about that much. But I think my last foster family, the Coxes, he was an old Scotsman, and I love him dearly, and I love that family dearly till the day I die. I think I love them. But yeah, and just realising that they weren't a part of what the government had planned or their policy of the day, and what they did out of love, and that's something that people should realise too. There's some bad places people were sent, but there were some good places also. Yeah.
So when you're revisiting these physical places, Uncle, and you're writing this song, how was that process of songwriting for you?
It wasn't easy. It wasn't easy. Because I had visions, especially the line where mother's tears were falling down. Dad shaped up and stood his ground, because that's what Uncle Banjo told me. He come running, my father, and he was, he wanted to fight the police, he wanted to fight the welfare, physically, and he had to be restrained by my uncles. He said, they'll just lock you up, Archie. My dad's name was Archie, and I was named after him, and so they restrained him and said, there's no use you getting locked up, and it's not going to do your children any good. And thinking about that, my mother, it was very hard. It was quite emotional, and a few tears were shed actually when I was penning that line. Yeah.
When I think of you saying that tears were shed while you were penning these various lines, how is it performing it? Because what was it like that very first time after writing this deeply personal and beautiful song to perform it publicly before an audience?
Well, it's interesting that you might say that, because Namilla, I first performed that publicly. It wasn't recorded yet, but it was a song I'd just written back in 1980, 87, 88. And of course, in 1988, the year of the bicentennial, we went up to Sydney, when all Indigenous peoples, First Peoples, just descended upon Sydney, thousands, to let people know that Australia and its peoples were a lot older than 200 years. And I actually sang that song out at La Perouse, where people were camping, because they were having some sort of argument. They had an open forum out at La Perouse, and people getting up talking, and they were arguing over one thing or another, or where we should march from. And it was getting a little bit heated. So because being an open forum, I stepped up and said, who are you? I said, I'm Archie Roach, I'm from Victoria, and told them who my mob was. My father's a Bundjalung man, my mother's a Gunditjmara woman. I said, okay. So they said, what would you like to say? I said, no, I just got this song to sing. And I remember singing it. I got up and sang it. The guitar wasn't plugged in, but it didn't matter, they heard the words. And I remember after I finished singing that song, and looked up, because I closed my eyes a lot, and there was this silence, and a hush descended upon the mob. And nobody said anything, and I saw men, grown men, with their heads bowed, shoulders heaving, and so that's all I've got to say. And so yeah, and old people came up to me later on and said, "Who'd you write that song about?" I said, "Oh, it was about me." And they were way older than me, I said, "Well, that's what happened to us. That's our story." And it's quite a powerful moment for me. Yeah.
I can imagine.
Yeah.
So, Uncle, you shared the story of performing Took the Children Away in a public sphere, but I'm interested, after you finished actually writing that song, who was the very first person you performed it for?
Well, it was Uncle Banjo, of course. When I finished it, I went down and saw him next day, Uncle Banjo, the next day. I said, "I think I've got it, Unc." And I sat down and sang it to him, and he listened, and he put his head down and looked up at me. He said, "That's him, boy. That's him, boy. That's him." And but I suppose the next person I sang it for was my family and Ruby, of course, Ruby, to my partner at the time, because she was also taken away as a kid. And so it's a song that meant something to both of us, I suppose. Yeah.
How did Auntie Ruby respond? Do you remember her words?
Yeah. I remember her words to this day. He said, "Yeah, they came." She told a bit of her story. She said, "Yeah, they came and down at Bonnie Reserve on the Coorong in South Australia, and they told my granny that they wanted to take us out for the day to the circus, and we never came back from the circus." And that's the first thing she said after she heard that song, and that hit me pretty hard as well.
Yeah, of course. So nearly 3 decades on since writing this song, Uncle, what's your relationship with that iconic song now?
It's funny, some people anyway, remark, they ask me, and say, "Don't you ever get sick of singing that song, Archie?" I said, no, I'll never get sick of singing it, because it's my relationship now with the song. It's a healing song for me, in the sense that when I sing it, I let a little bit of it go. And I've been singing for quite some time now, so I'm going to be singing it one day and it'll all just leave me. And I'm going to be free, Namila. I'm going to be free.
You spoke about performing Took the Children Away at La Perouse, and that sounds it's like such an incredible and magnificent experience, particularly because you're performing alongside and for mob. But I want to hear about you singing the song in front of Paul Kelly's audience, and I think that was at the concert hall, Melbourne Concert Hall.
Yeah. Paul had got in touch with me at work, where I was working, and asked me to sing a few songs, if I could sing a few songs before his performance. And I sang it here, sang another song, Beautiful Child, and then Took the Children Away. It was rather odd, because when I'd finished, there was no, it was just all quiet, and I think, then at least you get a little bit of applause or something. And I thought for a moment, gee, they didn't like me, and I started to walk off. And just as I turned around just to walk off, they started clapping, and then more people started clapping, and it was an incredible experience. And then it just erupted in this applause, and I stopped, and I just stopped and, yeah. I remember getting my guitar and putting it up in the air, you know, like that, you know, as if to say, you know, like, yeah, thank you, you know, yeah.
I think that moment too, Uncle, is there a part of it that, especially I imagine, a lot of the audience would have been overwhelmingly a white music audience. And in Australia, when it comes to talking about the true history of this nation, I mean, music is such a great way to be able to convey messages. And that's what we're talking about today with Agents of Change. Do you think that was part of the delayed response with this audience, was they had never heard a story or a song, and processing the difficult layers, but also the beauty that's within that song? Is that part of it?
Yeah, I think so. I think people were just sort of like, just taken aback and sitting down, trying to, I don't know, trying to figure out, you know, what the song was about. I was trying to figure out what is this? Children were taken away, you know, in our country, and it might have been like a delayed reaction, like you say, and because not many people were writing songs about, you know, that, you know, about the stolen generation or children being taken away from their families because of who they were.
Took the Children Away was on your debut album, the seminal album Charcoal Lane.
Yeah.
And Paul Kelly ended up, so he produced that album. But I'm wondering how you crossed paths initially for him to produce Charcoal Lane.
Oh, gee, back in the late 80s, the late 80s or something, we did a program on TV called Blackout. And I sang the song, Took the Children Away. And there was a man by the name of Steve Connolly. He was a guitarist for the band The Messengers, Paul Kelly's backing group, Paul Kelly's band. And so he caught me singing this song on television. And he rang up Paul straight away and said, "Catch this guy, there's this Aboriginal guy on TV, and catch him singing this song, you know, about kids being taken away." And so Paul did. And it wasn't until later on when we ran into Paul. First time I ran into Paul Kelly was here at the concert hall. And but he was covering the song, and I didn't know he'd been covering it for a little while. And yeah, so it was a surprise. And anyway, he got in touch with us later and said, "Look, would you like to do an album? You know, we Took the Children Away on it, and some other songs if you've got any." You know, I wasn't sure about that. You know, I didn't. You know, I'm a pretty quiet guy, private, and I didn't. You know, I thought maybe that wouldn't be a good idea. Yeah. So, but Ruby looked at me and said, she said, "What are you talking about?" And she looked at me with her hands on her hips and that look she give you, and she said, "Well, it's not all about you, Archie Roach." And I understood what she meant, you know. It's opening doors. It's, you know, if one person gets the chance to do something good, you know, one Aboriginal person or Torres Strait Islander person has a chance to do something really good, it may give others permission to do the same.
And so what was that process like, recording Charcoal Lane with Paul Kelly and with Stephen
Steve
Connolly?
Connolly,
Yeah.
I didn't know what was going on. I didn't understand the process, and they layered everything. So they'd go and probably put down the drums first, and a few instruments even before you put your vocals down. So it was all strange to me, And but we recorded that in dear old Greg Ham's studio, and Greg Ham, of course, played with Men at Work. He was the saxophonist, played the saxophone. And dear fella, beautiful man. We played at his studio. We recorded at his studio. And so the whole process was all different to me, but he'd come up and talk to me and say, I said, we might get in Tim Finn to do some backing vocals on it. I go, hang on, Tim Finn. Yeah, the Tim Finn, of Split Ends, and, Neil Finn's brother. Yeah, is that okay? I said, yeah, it's more than okay, go for it. And then the Bull Sisters, I said, I'm not quite sure if I know the Bull Sisters. So Linda and Vicar, they sing with Joe Camilleri and Black Sorrows. I'm going, oh my God, So to get the musicians of that calibre playing on the album as well was incredible. It was a wonderful experience. Yeah.
I imagine it would have been a really magical time, especially when you're immersed and surrounded by other Australian artists who are at the top of their game. Did you ever have to pinch yourself?
Yeah, I go home and think, did that just happen? And listen to those voices, not just the voices, but the musicians that played on it, as well. Some great musicians in their own right, players, instrumentalists, and and they're all there just to add to your songs and make you sound make your songs sound as good as they possibly can. And I just thought, wow, that's amazing that can happen. People do that, or you can have people come in and do that for you.
We're talking about agents of change, Uncle, and I think community radio also plays a big role within that conversation as well when it comes to the Australian music scene. I really want to ask you about going into 3CR and speaking to a presenter at 3CR, a long-term presenter called Gilla McInnes.
Gilla Mac, yeah.
And singing Took the Children Away on air during Gilla's show. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, long before the recording, Charcoal Lane, and meeting up with Paul Kelly. I'd sometimes go down into the studio at 3CR and have a yarn to Gilla McGuinness, and we'd have a yarn and sing some songs. So he said, come down at lunchtime, because I was working at a hostel in Fitzroy at the time for some of the parkies, the old mates I used to drink with and that. And so I went down and, he said, oh, you've got a couple of songs you've written, and we talked about them, and Took the Children Away being one of them, and we talked about that, and I sang it, and it was live. It was live to air that time. Just sang on the radio and went live, and so we had a bit of a chat, and I said I better get back to work. That's my lunch break. I probably got just enough time to have a sandwich, and a cup of coffee. And he said, okay, bud, see you later, brother. I said, no worries. And I got back up to work, and then not long after, I got a phone call from Gilla ringing up. He said, Archie, He said, you won't believe what's happened. I said, what's happened? He said, after you sang that song and talked about it, the whole switchboard is back in the day when, when they had switchboards and that, it just all lit up, and people were asking about this fella who sang this song about children being taken away. And I know I felt a bit odd then. I thought, I said, well, things might start to get a little strange from then on. Yeah.
Wow. And, we're talking about Took the Children Away in a very Australian and a very local Melbourne context, but the song has also travelled outside of Australia and become a really important song beyond First Nations people here in Australia, but also overseas. What have been responses when you've connected with other First Nations people and performed your song for international audiences?
The Canadian Aboriginal people have said we use that song for healing, and because a similar thing happened to their children. They were sent to what they call residential schools, and they were boarding schools, residential boarding schools. Never to, some made it back home, and terrible things. Some children died in those places. And that was pretty harrowing, to hear that. But yeah, that's there was a lady, I'm not quite sure where she was from, but she was European, somewhere in Europe, where they actually took children as well from their mothers, and we were doing something in Melbourne one time, and she came, and I think it was maybe a daughter or a granddaughter. She couldn't speak English, but she came up, and when she saw me, she started crying, and her granddaughter, or the person that was interpreting for her, said she loves that song. She listened to that song, Took the Children Away, because it happened to her. Her children were taken. She'd never seen them again. So you don't realise what a song. You don't realise that you just write a song and you just hope that that somebody might like it or get some comfort from it or understand it. But you don't really expect something like this. The response that in particular that song received.
And you've received so many musical accolades throughout your career, Uncle, but I imagine knowing the power of this one song and its ability to connect not only with your own history, but with so many people's histories right around the world, how do you verbalise the feeling that comes from being able to pen a song that is that powerful, that it takes on a life of its own, here, there, and in places you've probably never even, visited yet? Just the fact that it connects with so many people.
I know it can be a little daunting at times, because you're not, you don't see yourself as being a spokesperson for stolen people, stolen kids, but humbled as well that people have taken that song to heart, and it's actually helped people as well to deal, to cope. Because sometimes you just stand back and sit back and think, wow, I had no idea, and still shake your head today. But you sit down and you think, music has had an effect on me. Music has helped me through the years. People I love to listen to singing, and certain songs, have helped me and even changed my mind about certain things. So yeah, it shouldn't be so surprising, I suppose, that music can do this. But you know, when you find yourself in the same situation where here's a song that's been written and you know, and it's affected so many people and had the response that it has, you just sit back and go, wow, I never really expected this. You just accept it, you know, that it's one of those songs that, yeah, that's a gift that's been given to you.
And I guess it's not just about the ways that it's been able to connect with, you know, the everyday music lover, the every person, but you also took out the gong for an ARIA award, so that recognition amongst your peers as well. How important was that, you know, to be able to be acknowledged by the music industry for just how poignant and important this song is?
Oh, it was amazing. I went to the areas for first time when Charcoal Lane was nominated for a few awards, and I didn't, you know, to be awarded something for something you love doing, you know, is a bonus, you know, for what you do. But you know, I didn't expect it, but to be awarded something, especially. When you're talking about Australian music and recording industry, that you know, it's important that you know, it's important to you that it's like you've been accepted.
You published an illustrated lyric book of "Took the Children Away," and Auntie Ruby actually did many of the illustrations for this book. How significant was this collaboration between yourself and Auntie Ruby?
Oh, it was pretty, yeah, pretty significant. And, you know, she did, like I said, all the illustrations. Yeah, and it wasn't long after. You know, she never got a chance to see the book before she passed away. So it's very significant.
And Took the Children Away, Uncle, won a Human Rights Award, and I believe you were the only songwriter or musician to have received that award?
Yeah, it was a big surprise for me. I wondered what I was doing there in the first place at the Human Rights Awards. I think, what am I doing here? Because that was the year that the legendary Fred Hollows got the Human Rights Medal, you know, for the work that he's done, Professor Fred Hollows. And I thought, oh, that was amazing. It's good to be here to see Professor Hollows receive that award. And because I know that he's done a lot of work through remote areas with Aboriginal communities through Australia, with their rise and that. And next minute, they're talking about, you know, this young fellow. I wasn't that young, I suppose, but you know, who written this song. They're talking about me, and I'm thinking, what's going on here? And you know, and I received. I remember receiving the award for the song, Human Rights Award for the song "Took the Children Away." The very first time that it's been awarded to a singer-songwriter, and I'm not sure if they've ever done one since. But yeah, it was. I was very honoured. Yeah, especially you know. That day when Professor Fred Hollows received the Human Rights Medal for his work that he's done, and to be awarded for a song for Took the Children Away on the same day, I thought it was remarkable. Yeah.
And what's also remarkable is just the ongoing and continuous influence that Took the Children Away has, and how it's constantly being introduced to new generations. And the incredibly talented Briggs is part of that journey as well, with The Children Came Home and what he added to that song, the multiple layers and the way it was introduced to a whole new generation of music lovers. How did you feel about the sequel almost to your original song?
No, loved it, because that eventually is what the song's about. It's about, sure, it's about kids being taken away, but it's also about children coming home, and that's and for young Briggs to focus on that was, like you said, it was just a natural progression, the sequel to the song, and we've performed it with him as well on stage, and it's always great to perform it with him. And I love the clip that he's done, with the children, and it's a positive song. It's about our heroes, people that we can look up to, and strive to emulate, and our positive role models, because they're there, and I suppose not many people know about it. In particular, our own youth, they've got to know who our role models are, who our heroes are, their heroes are, their role models are, and for Briggs to highlight that in that song as well is very important. Yeah.
And you being an elder, I mean, I guess that's part of legacy as well, is having these younger ones, like Briggs being a hip hop artist, but really sort of looking to your lead and continuing cultural stories in that way, but giving it a very contemporary narrative. But you're also hopeful about the song being part of national curriculum, because I'm still constantly surprised, Uncle, at how many people still do not know about the stolen generation. But yeah, well, I mean, explain to us why, you think it would be important for younger generations to learn this aspect of history.
Well, it's history. It's Australian. If you're going to teach Australian history, you've got to teach all of it. You can't just take bits and pieces from it, and and say all the politics stuff and good stuff. I mean, that's all fine and good, but you need to take. People need to own. Australia needs to own this story as well, and realise, hey, this is our history, our collective history as a whole. If we want to be included, people have to, start to own this history, and not pretend that it didn't happen and said, oh, well, yeah, but, we don't want to talk about that. In order for a nation, a country to go forward, really, is to remember its past. And that's just to ensure that it should never happen again. Yeah.
That's right, for progress to happen as a nation. We've spoken about this song, Took the Children Away, and initially it came from a place of deep pain and sorrow, but just the beauty of the song and the joy that it's given so many. Tell us about the joy that music gives to you.
There's nothing in the world that I'd rather do. Music is my life. If I weren't playing music or involved with music in some way, I don't know what I'd do. I'd just go away somewhere and not be seen or heard again. Music is a reason. It's joyous in that sense that it has there's painful things, but that to be able to sit down and sing and write a song is a joyous thing. So yeah, I mean, music it affects people on so many levels, and not just one level. It can make you happy, it can make you sad, make you want to dance, make you sit down and think. And that's the beauty of music, you know. It has the ability to make us feel what we want to feel, and you know, put on a song to feel happy, put on a song to feel sad, and all these emotions that you go through with music is. It's life, and music is emotional. Music is moods. It's a beautiful thing.
And music changes people's lives.
It makes people think, and changes them in a way, you know, than sort of, you know, than talking or people getting up on stage or a pedestal and trying to browbeat them about things. Music has a way of caressing you and making you understand a lot more than they could ever do. Yeah.
Thank you for continuing to create your beautiful music, Uncle Archie Roach, and thank you for joining us today as part of the Australian Music Vault.
Thank you. Thank you.